Welcome to the Deep End, where nothing's off limits and no topic is too deep. We're John and Jessica, diving straight into raw, real, and unfiltered conversations that hit hard and make you think.
If you're ready to break boundaries and challenge the norm, then hold on tight, because we're about to go deep. Before we get started, let's thank our sponsor, A Touch of Peace Counseling Services, where you can bring your stress and leave with peace. Come get in touch with peace. They offer individual, group, substance abuse, and even corporate therapy. They look forward to seeing you soon. All right, so I'm going to let you jump in and start on this one because I know you have a lot of questions.
Yeah, a lot of thoughts too.
Yeah.
Just to kind of preface it, like I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, and I said, it was my opinion that the way that I guess mental health has shaped, I would say probably the last 10 years, so the last decade, it's a joke. And I believe that we, or the mental health industry, is creating a whole bunch of soft-ass people, right? That's why I think it's a joke. So, yeah.
See, that's loaded.
Okay.
Help me
I like loaded stuff.
Help me understand the joke about it, because mental health is serious.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out here who are struggling.
Mental health, yes, is serious. But I believe like we have created, or society has now created, this culture where everything and anything is a mental health crisis. Like so much so it's like you can't even really differentiate between somebody who's actually having, for example, an anxiety attack versus someone who's just, a little challenged with, I don't know, fear or rejection or whatever. That don't mean you're having an anxiety attack. That don't mean you're schizophrenic. It's like everything is a thing now.
So I think you're assuming, because there are standards we have to follow before we can identify something as schizophrenic or
Yeah, I'm just being
panic.
strong there.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's really important to understand that a therapist, one of their first trainings is being able to decipher what we call the DSM-5. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of like our Bible of diagnoses, just like medical field. They have their medical books and so forth that help them identify certain key issues. Mm-hmm. So we have to use that. Now, granted, I can imagine that there is some misdiagnosing.
My perspective is not so much like with your profession or you as the therapist, the culture that is mental health. Like where we're always talking about, say for example, we got to protect your peace. You got to protect your energy. And what I'm coming in contact with, I should say, is a whole bunch of weak ass people who just want to be like, well, I got to protect my peace. And then they bow out of circumstances that actually they should confront.
I agree with you. Actually, I'm thinking about what you're saying. And I do think that we have tried different theories in order to make people stronger. Some work, some don't. Now, you got to understand the field of psychology is young.
Yeah.
It is not an old field. So you imagine when the medical field came into play, we had all kinds of crazy stuff going on, from witch doctors to the medicine man that came around on a cart and horse and had elixirs that they made telling you it'll do whatever. And I mean, imagine the barbaric practices that we had in the medical field. We didn't understand how to the body as well, so we would amputate things that didn't need amputating. So we do need to, as a field, develop into a more precise field. We're growing in that.
More efficient.
Okay. We're trying new things, though. I mean, granted, yes, not all of them work, and some of them, really may do a little bit more damage than good. But I think the field is starting to take what we do to the mainstream.
And I can agree with that. And then I think to kind of take it another step forward, it's even younger when it comes to the Black community.
Yeah.
So
very much so.
These are the people that I'm coming in contact with, predominantly, who it's like everything has to be a thing now. Oh, because you new to this? Like that's really not where we at. But then also, I'm more of a fan of what I think is called psychoanalysis versus psychology. And I believe that psychoanalysis are more needed than psychologists.
So I want to give an education
Okay.
real quick
I love it.
about the field. So what you're talking about is a theory. So there's several different types of theories. So there's psychoanalytics spun out of Freud. And what that does is it focuses on the past, where the issues are in the past. If you can heal the past, then your present can be healed as well. But there are a lot of good theories out there from Erik Erikson. And you have cognitive behavioral therapy. You have Jung, and you have Gestalt therapy. You have humanistic therapy approach or theory. All these different approaches look at an aspect of how we function. You think about Pavlov. Pavlov had a dog. He talks about classical conditioning and operant conditioning and how we are conditioned to do certain things. All of these have a place. So in the medical field, and I'm going to use the medical field a lot because they have, if we were to mimic any type of field, it would be close to the medical field. So in the medical field, you have a general practitioner. You have a general doctor who kind of knows you. They grow with your family. And they tell you different things you may need. So they'll give you specialists. If you have brain injury, to go to a brain surgeon or someone like that. Or if you have something with your foot, you'll go to
Orthopedic.
Or if your eyes, they'll send you to
Right.
someone, an ophthalmologist. And so in the mental health field, we have this too. And I think this is where we have to do better, because a lot of therapists feel like they can do it all. You come to me, whatever your issue is, I know how to help you. And most general practitioners in the mental health field really are talk therapists.
Okay.
They talk to you
Yeah.
about what's going on, and
I'm
then they
not
give
a
you
fan of
that.
that.
It is very helpful. It's good to gain insight, but once you gain insight, you have to find real tools that can make the change. And so that's where we need to get more equipped with sending people to specialists.
So, I mean, like, are you saying or implying that what a psychoanalyst is a specialist?
Can be.
It can.
You
Okay.
can be. So if I'm having, let's say you're my client, and let's say I'm your general practitioner in the mental health field, and you come to me and you're like, man, I'm having all these problems. I say, well, let's explore 'em. And then all of a sudden I realize part of your problem is something dealing with the past. Now, I may be equipped with some psychotherapy, psychoanalytics, and so forth. But let's say I find that I can't get you to the point where you need to be. I need to find someone that specializes in that, is good with that. And so they have new techniques like EDMR,
I've been wanting to try that.
where they now can kind of break past your barriers, because there's a lot of resistance there.
Yeah.
But also there may be a need to get tested, because maybe there was something there other than just the past. Maybe there's some trauma, some damage that happens. So you may want to get with a psychologist who does testing. So most psychologists and psychometrists do testing.
That's a new word for me.
Yes, and so these are people who test for different disorders, different delays. This is where you do your IQ test, your test for ADHD, autism. So I can see that you have symptoms and say, hey, you have ADHD. But if you really want a strong diagnosis, you want to do something like a TOVA, where it can break your brain up into quadrants, and it can tell you where the issue is coming
Oh my
from.
God, I would love that.
Right. A lot of therapists wait too long to prescribe a specialist to their clients. And then, so there's a difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist focuses on the medicine.
Yeah, I don't really mess with them.
Right, because sometimes they've over medicated when they don't need to medicate, and it really could just need external tools that could help them. But there are times where the psychiatrist is needed because what's happening is physiological, not psychological, not cognitive, not just something like behavioral therapy can change. So they may need to see a psychiatrist. I think as a practitioner in the field, which I would consider myself a general practitioner, kind of like a family therapist, we need to equip and educate our clients on how to advocate for themselves.
How to advocate for themselves. So that's problematic in a way for me. And it could just be how I'm hearing what you're saying.
Sure.
Because especially when it comes to, our community, like we said, who's new to this, they not true to this. Self-advocacy when it comes to therapy seems like something that is just foreign. We don't even really know how to identify a lot of things. For example, and I want to be clear, me saying we don't know how to identify a lot of things, that don't mean that I think we less intelligent. Let me be clear about that.
Sure.
It's just that we haven't been exposed to that. Like our psychiatrist, our psychologist has always been Jesus,
Right.
So I think when we've stepped aside from religion or whatever, and we're actually now trying to try this white man stuff, that's how we used to call it. We don't really know what self-advocacy looks like. So can you
Right.
break that down?
You may not know how to articulate what you need because you don't know what you need, but you can articulate what's not working. And so when I say advocate, talk about what's not working. I encourage my clients to tell me if something isn't jiving. Don't just, yes, okay, yes, that sounds good, yes. Because I can make everything sound good. But a lot of stuff that I'm doing is done from an educated guest point of view. I'm poking around in the dark trying to figure out what is really going on. You can help shed light by saying, hey, that doesn't really vibe with me. And it's okay. So then let's go and explore another avenue, another route. And so advocacy is being an active participant. A lot of people come in and they have this conception as if I can read their minds. They may not say it. They know it's not true from a verbal cognitive point, but emotionally, they're expecting me to read their mind.
Right.
And I can't. And so that's why I provide an environment. First thing I tell them is that this environment is safe. This is an environment you can be authentic to. The more you allow me in, the better I can serve you.
And I agree with that, but then also kind of sticking to my why I think it's a joke, the culture of psychology is because so many people they can't even really interpret what you're saying. Let me in, I'm here to help you, because we have, particularly Black people, right? We have learned just how to survive for so long that there have been a lot of stuff that has been happening with us, in us, to us for so many years that we've just suppressed, okay? And we've put all of these different things on top of it. So when you're talking about some let me in, I am letting you in, I'm here.
Right.
That's
but
a
then
step.
then I say share something with me.
Yeah, but
Share that one thing with me that you've been holding on. Let me carry that burden with you.
yeah, but how do you get somebody to identify what that one or even 10 things are who's not even learned to focus really on themselves?
So there's a lot of tools that we have in our toolbox.
Okay.
There's a tool that I use. It's called the Cube, right? And I can tell you to draw a picture. And in that picture, I know everything about you. I know about your relationships. I know about the things you're passionate about, the things that give you the most problems. There are things called free association, where I can get you to, especially when I work with kids, I do this. Let's say a kid who has behavioral problems, but can't explain why I'm having behavioral problems. What I'll do is I'll pull out my guitar, and this may seem like it's just fun and games, but it's actually one of the most powerful things you can do. And so I will write a hook with them about something I do know. Like, I hate when people talk about me. And so we'll start a hook. I hate when people talk about me because they get me wrong. And then I'll say, okay, create the first verse. And while they're singing, they're telling me everything that they wasn't able to describe because our subconscious is hard to tap into.
Right.
We'll tap into our conscious, and if we're nervous, our conscious will put up a wall so that we can't go to our subconscious. And so part of my job as a therapist is to build such a environment and rapport with you that we can tap into your subconscious, and your brain is not seeing me as a threat.
So like I'm a person, I believe I've been a person who has always like enjoyed exploring my mind, my behavior. So like therapy was never like a thing for me that you had to like break down the walls for. Like if we gonna talk, as long as you, the therapist or whomever, you made yourself, you presented yourself to be someone that I believed I could trust.
Right.
And I believed that you were true to your craft, then I would go on ahead and just let you have it. Because I'm like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to get this work, And I am also a person where you can tell me, Jessica, you fucking up. And I'm going to hear it exactly how you said it. I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to be like, oh, okay, how? How you see that? But then it's like there's so many people that you just can't be raw like that with.
Right.
And it's like, what is that about?
So even though you come in with a degree of openness, that could still be a mask.
Okay.
That could still be your way of protecting yourself from, because everybody have defense mechanisms. Once again, this is where a therapist earns their salt, right? Is by being able to see past just your surface self. Because we all give our idea self of what we want, but we always hold back our real selves. And to understand why you're still, because if all you needed to be was authentic, and you're an authentic person, but you still are running into issues, then something's wrong, right?
I think something is wrong, but I couldn't necessarily say that the bulk of what is wrong would lie in that authentic person. I think if you're still running into problems, it really is. I mean, people are fucked up.
Sure. So we live in a world that we have to navigate because it's constantly weighing on us. It's constant. Once again, another reason why you want a therapist. We have many there's many reasons why you want a counselor on speed dial. If for just the only reason you do it is just so that all the stuff you're running into, the data that you're collecting, you have somewhere you can dump it. Imagine a computer running day and night for a year, never being turned off. That computer is going to slow down and probably crash. Humans are the same way. If we don't download all the stuff that we're picking up on a regular basis, we will crash.
I get that, but like I want to really tap into what you just said about the openness could possibly be a mask, right? So how could that possibly be a mask for someone?
Let's say I'm shy, but the way I fight shyness is I'm loud and boisterous.
Right.
I'm
different.
I'm using something that's different, but it can be similar. Same scenario.
Okay.
So I'm going around and I'm overly friendly. I'm overly blunt. I remember growing up, they'll say before someone pick on you, pick on yourself. So that you can lessen that load or whatever that feeling may be. But doesn't mean that I still don't question the thing that I just did. I can be shy and I can go around a big group of people, and then when I'm done with the big group of people, I'm in my head. Did I do everything right? Did they notice how shy I was? Or did I get away with it? And that keeps you from being able to truly grow in certain areas and process in certain areas. And so for me, I need to know, okay, yes, you're a open book type person, but still find yourself in conflict with people.
Yeah, of course. Because like I said, people are people, right? But what I'm trying to say is like, and I'm just going to use myself as an example, okay? As the example. So like I'm a very, very, very open person. And like I just because I'm open don't mean I don't have fears. It does not mean that, I don't also make projections and, be disappointed and I'm hurt. None of that. But I can speak to that. Like,
So
I can tell you that I'm hurt by this. Or, I expected more of this person and they disappointed me and maybe I should not have. I can speak.
but if you're still going through it, you're like, it's almost like I used to have a brother. I have a brother who thought because he told my mom he snuck out of the house, it should be okay. At
No.
least I admit to it. At least I'm aware. At least I know. But if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, even if you can articulate it, then there's still a problem. Somewhere you still got to do the work of getting unstuck. So Eric Erickson came up with the stages of development, right? So there's these 8 stages. And in each stage, there's a conflict. So in the first stage is trust versus mistrust. Now, what he says is that in that first stage, if trust is broken, age 0 to 3, right? If trust is broken, you could be a 20-year-old and having trust issues. It shows in your relationships.
Right.
And so in your relationships, you're asking like, man, I just can't. I know I can't trust people. I don't trust people. There's no reason for me not to trust people, but I just don't trust people. If I was, doing that theory, Eric Erickson stages of development, I would go to, 0 to 3 and like someone broke your trust. Let's say you were abandoned by your biological parents and you're adopted. And that's why you're finding it hard to trust. Now I can go back and say, okay, we got to deal with that trust that was broken. So even though
Right.
you're a functional person, you go to work, you're aware that you have trust issues, even though you maybe choose to trust certain people, but you're still in your head. Like you have a loving husband, a loving wife, and you tell yourself every day in your head, you're like, is she cheating on me? Is he cheating on me? Can I trust her? But out loud, you're like, I love you, I trust you. We'll put on that mask. We'll say, I love you, I trust you. But inside, you could still be spiraling.
I get all of that, but that's still not what I'm talking to about me. It's like I would still be the one that would say, I'm spiraling, and this is why. I'm the one who will say, because of my past abandonments, it is very difficult for me to trust. I want to, and I actually am trying to, but there's some things that I see that cause me to revert back to having to protect myself. I can tell you all of that. And that's the type of openness that I'm saying that like I come with, where because I am that way, it makes it very difficult for me to understand others who are not and who find it
I
maybe
see what you're saying.
challenging to
Okay.
be that. So I'm like, it just is what it is. Like we all got our ish.
Right. And I think it's hard for us sometimes to empathize with people. I don't smoke. So when I see a smoker, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Right. Like, why do you do that? But for a smoker, it's
Like just
second
smoking,
nature,
yeah.
But then someone who's fit probably look at me and like,
You know what? Yeah, we all got our thing. Me too.
so there's some things that you may be good at that others aren't. And there's some things that you're not good at that others are.
Correct.
And so we will judge, and this is why being judgy is so bad. We will judge people based off of our experience. How can you know me from your experience? You can't know me. And as going back to therapy, as a therapist, this is where I have to remove my own biases. I had people coming to me from all kind of walks of life. And I have to remove my biases. I would not be an effective therapist if I let
Agreed.
my biases get in the way.
Yeah. I think where I'm trying to go with this is so I understand that, biases, we can't have them or you can't have them, as a therapist. And we really shouldn't either, just, relationally.
Right.
So for those individuals who come to you and maybe they are not as open or they can't easily or readily make certain connections, identify certain things, how do you get them to a point where they start thinking about this stuff. Because what I'm finding is that y'all be way too soft on
Right.
these mofos.
So, okay, now I understand this terminology soft. So there's different personalities. Don't get me wrong. There are some therapists who are very confrontational. And it works for some.
Yalla. It's my life. Yeah.
But it doesn't work for all.
I agree with that.
You have to bring people. So the hardest thing in the world is for someone to look at themselves in the mirror,
And why is that so hard?
because we don't want to admit to ourselves that we have issues. Even when we do have issues and we know we have issues, we will try to minimize those issues as much about our shift blame. We don't want to carry our burdens by ourselves.
Why?
Human nature. I think so. Okay, let me give a better answer than human nature, because it's uncomfortable.
And
For you, that might be your approach, but for someone else, it may feel like life or death. It may feel so embarrassing. Like, I know people who could walk in here butt naked and not have a care in the world.
right.
But is that most people? Absolutely
It's not. It's not.
Absolutely not, because they're worried about being judged. Some people's brain is wired differently. So as a therapist, I have to be universal. I have to be able to see where you are. There's sometimes people come and I know what your problem is, but I can't tell you.
That's messed up.
It's too blunt. If I hit you too hard with it, it's going to do more damage than good.
That's wild, bro.
But it's true.
It is. It is.
It is true. But I do need to tell you your problem. I'll give you an example. I had this client one time came to me, was forced a court order, right? And this client was doing his best to avoid the issue, which was his inappropriate behavior at work. And so he used every tactic he could to get me not to tell him what his problem was.
Wow.
I mean, intimidation.
So why are you here, sir?
Intimidation. He would stand up, try to stand up and talk to me and stuff like this, and I had to keep redirecting him. I said, "Sit down," and I had to wait for him to get to a point that he could hear me, and then I was able to to start the process. Says, is any of this going to get you where you need to be? I said, you've done all you exert all this energy. Is any of it getting you where you want to be? Because you have not addressed why you're here. And I can't release you until you address it. So why do all of this? And I had to talk to him about that before he opened up. But as soon as I broke through his barriers, guess what? We had the realest, dopest conversations
Yeah.
possible. You may say it's soft, at least from my perspective. It's not soft. I'm gentle. I'm gentle about coming into your space, because I want you to be able to not only let me in, but help me stay there. I've done and I've been doing this for a long time. And I'll tell you something. I'll tell you a way I've gotten into someone's space in a direct, hard way. So we do this technique called the empty chair. And I was working with teenagers. And it's a very powerful tool and can be used many different ways. And so what I did is I set up 2 chairs, kind of like how we have here. And there was an empty chair and then him. And his problem was, he was a marijuana smoker. And he's on probation and he gets tested every week. But he continues to smoke, even though he knows that if he tests positive one more time, he's going to jail. For good, he's going to do his whole sentence, but he can't stop. And so I use this technique. So I got behind him and I'm in his ear whispering. I'm like, and I don't curse, so this is going to probably sound weird to you. I'm like, you my bitch.
Yeah. Don't say that.
And
Don't sound right coming from you.
I know, right? but sometimes I got to play this role.
Yeah.
And he's like, who you talking to? I said, you know who I'm talking to? I'm talking to you. I'm like, you've been hooked by me since you were 14. And you ain't going nowhere. Matter of fact, I'm letting you know you're going to jail. Because that's the only place you can go that you can escape from me. And I just back and forth, and I'm in his ear, And so he's like really getting upset. Like, I ain't no punk. I'm in control. Say, yeah, when? Remember that time you tried to stop? What happened?
Right.
What happened? I barely touched you and you jumped back on me. Ain't nothing you can do. I got you. And it hit him so suddenly. Like, he really got upset. Like, it really hurt him emotionally because it was the truth. It was like a slap in the face type truth. And he had to come to grip because every excuse he tried to come up with, because I knew his record, I had everything on him. There was nothing he could lie about. I was telling him nothing but truth. But I also saw how heavy that hit him. He went out and smoked. You know what he told the judge? He said, I can't beat this thing.
He's like, it is what it is.
It's what it is. I hope he got it together.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is sometimes you can't come in guns a blazing, even though you know what a person
John.
issue is.
And I don't want you to hear like my position as like I think you all got to be like one trick ponies. That's not what I am saying.
Right.
That is not at all my perspective. My perspective is more so life is not gentle. You know, just touching on your gentle word, I'm gentle. And so what I think ends up happening to people when they have to be approached a certain way before they can tap into something or before they can think something is, then you ain't resilient enough for life. Because life is not going to always create that. I mean, not always. It's not going to create that.
We're dealing with a different walk of people. If you were 1970s, I'd counsel you totally different. This world made you soft. This is a soft world. We coddle people. So as a counselor, I can't, someone who's never been slapped in the face, I can't just slap them in the face and say, now you know how it feels.
I agree. But when you say that this world made you soft, I think it's you all that are part of the world that are making these people soft. When we're talking about like safe spaces and stuff like that's soft because the world is not
so you're
safe.
talking about a part of psychology, and I'll give you the blame on this. We have had some research that I think is skewed. People have made research on what is good parenting, what's good for relationship, what's good for our self-esteem, that I think may be short-sighted, maybe even skewed. I'll give you that. But as a therapist, as someone who's on the front line dealing with someone's, if anything, I'm combating you coming to me. I want you to be, it is my desire for you to be resilient. That is my goal. Grief. Someone come to me and the parent died. Ultimately, I want them to get to a stage of acceptance. But the first time they meet me, I'm not going to say, hey, you need to just get over that.
Right. Of course not. Yeah.
That's the same thing. I can't just come at you with suck it up, buttercup. I have to help you navigate through the anger, denial, and blame, the depression you may feel, the confusion you may have. And then now I get you to a place where you deal with those things. Now I can get you to a place you can accept and give you tools to accept it.
I'm with all of that. I support all of that. I think my issue is in the how you go about getting these people to those spaces.
Right.
And that's what I am suggesting is creating weak and soft individuals. Because if, for example, there are these steps that you know that you're going to go through in the process of grief, I should not have to necessarily coddle you when you're in one or the other. We know this is what this is. So give me one of the steps of grief.
So denial is the first step.
So denial, okay. So I should be able to call that what it is. This is denial. You're in it. I shouldn't have to try to tiptoe around that.
Guys, we're gonna role play this. I want y'all to see it, and then y'all weigh in on whether or not this is the right way. So let's role play this for a second.
Okay.
You lost the loved one. I don't want to do nobody too close. I was about to say your daughter.
My
But
grandmother. That was
grandmother.
heavy
Okay,
for
okay.
me. Yeah.
So you lost your grandmother. You're coming to see me, and you're in denial. Let me paint what denial looks like.
Okay.
Denial isn't necessarily this person isn't dead, but it could be expecting this person to be around. expecting to hear their voice when you call their number, or just not being able to truly let go that they're not going to wake up or pop up one day. Having that feeling like I can't accept that I'll never see them again. And some people are in this. So let's say you're coming to me in that mindset. And so let's say you say to me, I just can't believe this happened. I can't believe it happened. So all I want you to say to me is I can't believe she's gone.
Okay. I can't believe she's gone.
We all are going to die. We all going to die. It's part of life. The quicker you accept that, the quicker you can move on.
I would benefit from that. Because that's the truth.
But guess what you have to do to get there? You have to shut down all the other emotions. You can't explore how you're feeling. You have to, if you're going to take what I'm saying, you got to shut all that other noise down and just say, you know what, you're right. I'm just going to move on.
Well, no. Well, okay. So yes and no. Okay. So I believe that, before I even go to what I believe, what would be the other noise?
The other noise would be, so you got denial, then you got anger. You angry at God, like God, why does death even exist?
So I'll make sure I'm interpreting this. So you're saying that, like, when I say I can't believe she's gone, and you're like, well, I mean, everybody's gonna die. So what's the other noise that I'll be having to suppress?
You got to suppress the fact that you still haven't truly let go, let her go. You got to suppress your anger towards why it even happened. You got to suppress your depression you may feel for her being gone. You're going to have to suppress your confusion of what we call it bargaining.
Okay.
Of what can I do better, or what do I need so that this pain doesn't hurt anymore. You suppress all those and you go straight to,
I disagree with that.
I'm okay.
Because I wouldn't be okay. I would not be okay if you responded to me like that and you said, well, we all got to die. I'm not saying say it how you said it. No. But, because I say the only thing that's guaranteed about life is death. The only thing. If I'm saying I can't believe that she's gone, and you're like, the only thing that's guaranteed about life is death, then I could then say, yes, it just life is so different.
So why live it then?
I mean, we ain't asked to be here. None of us.
But that's where I would go. If you're like, if the only thing that's guaranteed in life, telling me
why would you go
this
there,
pain
though?
is guaranteed? Well,
and it's not just
you
pain,
wouldn't.
It's death. Death is the only thing that is guaranteed.
You wouldn't go there. So that's why, as a therapist, I can't just go to the end. So let's do this again. This time, you're like, I can't believe she's gone.
I can't believe she's gone. But we not getting to what I'm trying to get to, though.
Okay,
you
what
keep
are you
cutting
saying?
me off, though.
All right, help me understand.
Because I'm trying to understand again. I know you mentioned what would be suppressed, but I don't think that it really would be suppressed. And I think that this is maybe something that you all being therapists tell yourselves, that you all have to deal in a certain particular way with all of these emotions of people. Okay, so an emotion could be depression. Okay, I could tell you, even when you tell me that, well, she was going to die. She was sick. Okay, I could then say, yes, and I've been so depressed about that. Like, why do we have to tiptoe around, or why does you going to the solution suppress emotions? Like, no, we could deal with all of that stuff. So let's just deal with it.
Right. And I hear you. Once again, I think for you, the difference is you may have done some self-reflection for you to be able to say, I'm depressed. Some people are not able to say that.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? Like they can't describe what they're feeling. And as much as you would hope that people should be able to or could, not everybody can. Not everybody is that, there's a word for it, maybe emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
So I have to be aware of that. Great. If that's you and you're in my chair and you're like, I'm depressed, then I know what we're dealing with. I know what stage to go to. What are you, and then we're going to explore, what are you depressed about?
Right.
What is the thing that, now I can break it down. And it may be because I don't feel like I have her anymore. And then I would tell you, you do have her. You have everything. I would challenge you. I would say, ask a question you would want to ask your grandmother.
And you would have the answer. So yeah.
You would have the answer because
So you
she already
gotta-
poured into
Right.
you every answer you need. I would help you realize you ain't loser. Mm-hmm. She's still there. Mm-hmm. You get what I mean?
I do.
So going back to your statement, I get it. For you, it may be easier. And maybe that's where you get frustrated with therapists because they are used to people not being that intellectually ready emotionally. And this is where avocation comes in. You got to advocate for yourself and say, and I think you probably would do this well, but you would have to tell them like, hey, listen, I don't really need all the steps to get to where I'm at. Let me tell you where I'm at. I am feeling depressed. What do you have for that? And that will help your therapist understand like, okay, I don't have to walk through these steps to see where you are. Remember, I'm not a mind reader.
Right.
So I have to take what I've learned and apply it to each situation and tailor it to each situation. So I have to tailor it to you.
Touching on again when you something you said a moment ago about a person may not be emotionally intelligent enough to be able to identify certain things, and then me saying that making soft people, you as a therapist could not and would not say you're emotionally unintelligent.
Unless it felt
And
like it was going to
why?
benefit you. Only if I felt like it was going to benefit you.
When does awareness not benefit us? Like isn't that like the first step in like fixing a problem? You got to be able to identify it or be aware that you have one.
I hear you, but there's things in this life you don't know that if you were aware
Agree. I agree with that.
without warning would make you go shell shock. I mean, PTSD is a real thing. We can receive trauma by receiving something too quick. There's a lot of things you don't know about that you probably should know about. But if I just gave it to you as hard as again, we know mass panic can happen.
I hear you. I do. And again, I'm not just saying, one size fits all. I believe in everything that you're saying. I also believe in what I'm saying.
Sure.
It is just that I believe that type of rationale, and it's a good one, okay? Thinking that, there could be mass hysteria and panic and stuff like that when you tell people the truth too soon. That, to me, is exactly what creates soft people.
Sure. So David Goggins said something that I thought was really, really powerful. He says...
And who is that?
Who David Goggins is? He's an ex-Marine guru, real healthy. He was a big dude that, start running like marathons and all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Real motivational type dude. But he says, strong people create good times. Good times creates weak people. Weak people create hard times. Hard times creates strong people. And it's just this rotation that we follow. So, after a war, guess what? You start creating some really strong people. Or after, Black History Month, after racism, we create some really, really strong people. But then those strong people create good times. And then good times creates weak people. And then weak people will create hard times.
Right.
That's human nature. We're going to you can see it throughout history.
We're going through a cycle, yeah.
We're going through a cycle.
I think we're in the weak people.
Yeah, we're almost at the end of the weak people.
Yeah, I'm so over
like,
it. Yeah.
It's one good crisis is on its way, and then we're gonna become strong again.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be the strong that's gonna survive and work through it and make it through it. It's kind of like during the time period I did some study on the Great Depression. And Wall Street guys were literally committing suicide. By the rate of suicide by Wall Street guys was skyrocketing. You know where suicide wasn't prevalent?
Where?
In the impoverished areas. Ain't nobody from poverty killed it. They was like, this is normal.
We know this.
This is normal. You talking about someone that went from a $3 million portfolio to a $1 million portfolio jumping out the window. Like,
what is that?
We would have been like, shoot, give me the million. You made my day. Why are you jumping out the window?
Right.
I can't drive my Porsche. I got to drive a Honda.
Oh, you got a car. Oh,
You mean you got a car?
Yeah.
So it really boils down to perspective. And life has a way of regenerating itself.
Right.
over and over again. But I get it. I think for you, and here's where it boils down: you don't have room in your life for weak people.
I don't.
Yeah, you don't have room in your life for
Not.
weak people.
I don't understand them. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's okay because we need a few of you around. So when everything hits the fan, you're going to be able to survive. You're going to be able to make sense. You're going to think quickly. You're going to do what you need to do to survive. And those that can't, I mean, we'll just have to start over.
Right.
But I'm hoping one day, as a Christian, I'm throwing that in there. I'm hoping one day all that gets fixed.
So, can I ask another question on this?
Yeah.
Right. So, like, why doesn't the school of thought that is psychology? Why do you all not include astrological signs? And I'm gonna add to that question, right? So that's the question.
Yeah.
But where I'm coming from with that is just in the same way that psychology, I think, was looked at years ago as like some sort of pseudoscience or whatever, and then now it's really mainstream. I think it's the same thing with astrology and astrological traits and things. And I think we have enough evidence to show that people born under, certain months, moons, suns, stars, whatever, they have certain traits. So, like, for example, I'm a Sagittarius. My daughter's a Libra. My best friend is an Aries. And we literally see the world, interpret the world totally differently. And so because of that, particularly with my daughter, there are things that make sense to me and how I view the world and walk through the world that I can't advise her on because hers is different. And I feel like psychology does not really get down to who that person actually is.
So they do. It's called dark psychology.
Why's it gotta be dark?
Because that's where a lot of those dark pseudosciences
Oh my gosh,
come in
okay.
play. So I'll tell you something that's in there that's not so dark, but hypnosis. So you can actually, they have schools that teach you these techniques. They're a lot of powerful techniques. We use some that we don't consider dark, like Rorschach or, ink block test or certain things that we do that help us tap into your psyche and help you understand each other and so forth. But there are some that we consider dark. And so there are people who will look at that and use it to be able to tap into who you are, check your personality, and so forth. They, is not popular, so you may see them more on the spiritual side of things because it's not popular, especially in a Western culture. But if you go over to the Eastern culture,
Right.
it's very prevalent. I mean, they use signs and colors and all kinds of stuff to really explain things that are not able to be explained. And so, yeah, I think you can find it if you look for it. But mainstream psychology kind of tiptoes away from that.
Yeah.
And bores more on philosophy and science.
But and I think that's cool. But I think when you're really trying to create like a more healed and holistic person, it's like you're unable to do that if you're not really looking at like their whole being. And so like there are lots of traits that each person will have, under their sign where that will cause them to even receive or not receive your information, the information that you're trying to pass to them, how you're trying to pass to them.
So if you came to me and that was your concern, I would find a specialist. That's part of advocating. Once again, advocation, guys, is so important to success in mental health. But you advocate for yourself, and then I would help you find. I wouldn't judge you. I would help you find someone who can help you in that arena and add to what we're doing. Because sometimes we can work in concert, in unison, together with a whole group of people. And so you want a team, especially when there's a specific thing that you want to overcome.
But I get specific thing, but I am more so, I think, asking like if I'm coming to you and similar to what just happened in our discussion. So like how I maybe word things, how I view the world, what I even expect from you as my therapist. So you could have had that conversation with me that she's dead. Well, death is a part of life, going to the grandmother illustration. And I would receive that very well. That does have a lot to do with the sign that I was born under. And so instead, though, I guess a general practitioner, psychologist will just give me what just kind of standard philosophical language that it's like, well, how do I even know
Right.
that you're helping more, if it's helping me, if maybe there's not some sort of an assessment maybe beforehand, so for you to
Yeah.
get to know me get to know you, or like what's the process for that maybe?
So there is an assessment.
Okay.
Most psychologists, counselors will do an assessment to really kind of get to know you, and from there, my approach to you, because my approach to you is going to be different than my approach to someone else, based on what I think their personality type is. And so there are some where I can be strong, a little stronger with, and there's some that I'll be a little softer. What I've learned is that you can't always use that, because I've had people come in, I've had 280-pound straight muscle dudes that look like they'll rip your head off, can't handle nothing hard.
Right.
And you may start off like, oh, you seem like you
Right.
can handle some, so let me be hard. They can't. They can't hear it. They can't hear it. It's hard for them to hear. And I've seen 80 pounds wet. People come in and they're like, yo, just give it to me raw. So you can't always take those indicators and say this is it. So I always start in the middle ground, and I will go up and I will go down just to see where you're at. And there have been people I've been really, really soft with, and they're not moving. And so I will go hard with them. Now it's a certain level of trust, because then they're like, this is strange, this is weird. And I'll tell them afterwards, I have to push a little bit because you're not moving. And I want to get you moving. And that's why I did what I did, but you can still trust me. And then I'll try it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. And so as a therapist, I have to find that, and that's why a general mental health therapist is someone that should be with you if you find a good one, pretty much your whole life. Because once you connect, it's like a relationship. It's like a marriage.
Nobody wants to start over.
Nah.
Yeah.
When I know you and I know where you're at and I know what you need and I know how to talk your language, you're gonna hold on to them.
Right.
But that's why we have a lot of different types of therapists, because not everybody's gonna fit your modality.
So what do you say, I guess, to the particularly, I'm pointing out young people, because like, you know how I feel about these Gen Zs. I'm like, they get on my nerves, but they can't handle nothing. Okay. And I think they can't handle nothing because I guess this psychology, mental health has been perverted. So like, what can we do to get them and other people who I think are soft, to just be more resilient?
This is a good question. What I've learned, or what I'm learning from this generation, is there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of pretending going on. They pretend they got it because they feel like they have to, but deep down they are afraid. And so they'll catch you off guard because they'll act like they got it. But then you see them completely break down. So anytime you try to give them advice, they're like, leave me alone. No, I don't need it. Get away.
Right.
But when you leave them to do it on their own, they go depressed, they get sad, they seem like they can't handle anything. So to answer your question, what can we do? Number one, I think we could say, we see you. I know this isn't easy for you.
I don't see you. I know I'm asking you what you could do, but okay, so like take my daughter. My daughter's a Gen Z, okay?
Right.
I can't see her all the time because, baby, you got all the struggles. And you making them, they self-inflicted, boo, like.
Yeah. But so the second would be, so the first was, I see you. The second would be kind of what I do with clients. I need you to trust me. I can get you to where you want to be. It's not going to be easy, but if you trust me, I can help you overcome this hump when you're ready. And I'll just wait until they're ready. I do that to my daughters all the time because they fall into that category. And I'm like, I can teach you how to be stronger at this when you're ready. And now what's happening as they're getting closer to getting out of the house, they're coming to me asking me more things that they need to do. And I'll prepare them like, hey, this is gonna be tough, but it'll make you stronger. It's like medicine. It's bitter, but it'll make you better. So, here, let me show you how, let's say washing dishes. You gotta redo these. These are dirty. This is not clean. Redo it. Let me show you one time. Redo it. Stick to it, because you got to learn how to develop stick-to-itiveness.
Right.
You got to learn how to look at being proficient. All these things. It's going to teach you that. I don't care if it's 2:00 in the morning. You're going to stick to this. You're going to get this done. You're going to do it right. And then you start building that strength and resiliency in them. Don't be intimidated to be authentic. My first spill when I meet a client is this environment. In order for it to work, you have to be authentic. You don't have to worry about being judged or anything like that. This is for you to really explore who you really are, because if you're aware of where you are, then we can get you to where you want to be. But I want you to be authentic. And so I think the first thing is just be authentic. And the word of the day is advocate. Advocate for yourself. Tell your clinician what you want. And if you do that, the relationship will be reciprocal. It'll kind of be with the flow, work together, y'all will mesh.
Okay.
Hey, great conversation. Thank you for bringing it up. I know that was something you've been probably holding on to for a minute.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought it to me.
For sure. Thanks for
All
having me.
right. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Join us. Guys, this is fun, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of benefit out of it. We'll see you soon.